I call Moana Mackie.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and I'm happy to stand up in part two of this committee stage and perhaps seek some reassurance from the Minister and the Chair regarding this part. As he said in his brief words to the Committee of the Whole House, this part of the bill does dramatically extend the workload of ESR, and I think from the opposition's perspective, we would like some reassurance from the Minister that that is going to come with adequate funding. We are, in fact, giving the state far greater powers than they've had before, and there is a real danger of a miscarriage of justice if these new powers are not backed up by adequate funding for the police and for ESR, which will be doing the data analysis. And when I talk about adequate funding for ESR, and I note that the Minister for Research, Science and Technology is, I think, with us, although he looks tired, then maybe he might want to take a call on this as well. You have to look more, you have to look beyond just simply looking at how much a DNA sample costs and then multiplying it by a factor of how many more you expect to be doing. What kind of reassurance I think we would like to see is that there is going to be adequate money for the extra reagents, for the extra equipment, for perhaps the extra work area that ESR is going to need to carry out all these extra analyses, for the extra staff. But as I said in the second reading of this bill, Mr Chair, one of the most important things is that we need to make sure that the administration of this Act is adequately funded. And I know the government doesn't like bureaucrats. I know they don't like people who aren't quote-unquote front line. But the fact is the chain of custody is just about the most important thing that you can have in a laboratory. If it is not adequately funded, then we are in real danger of seeing a miscarriage of justice. And I would like to seek reassurance from the Minister and the Chair that that will be adequately funded. I assume that he must have had these figures done. I can't believe that the government would pass a piece of legislation where they haven't had advice from its officials about what the fiscal impact is going to be, what the needs of ESR are going to be in terms of this extra funding, particularly around the administration of samples, from where the sample is collected by the police, where it's labelled appropriately, where it's sent to ESR, where it's logged in, where from then on through the process the correct sample is logged next to the correct results. Because, Mr Chair, I don't need to tell you that if that is not done properly, if ESR are put in a position where they are understaffed, where they are under-resourced, where they are having to do all this without the adequate funding, then these extra powers suddenly become very dangerous. And I'm sure, as I said, that the government has done this work, and I would really appreciate the Minister taking a call, letting us know what those fiscal costs to the Crown are, giving us the reassurance that that money will be there. My colleague Charles Chauvel talked earlier about a review period in the law, which would have been incredibly important when you consider these extra powers, and we need to make sure that it's working right. If ESR or any other Crown agency are not on track to be able to do this properly, then they shouldn't be put in the position of having to do it, because frankly the cost to the citizens of New Zealand of having them in a position of doing it when they're not ready are too great to even contemplate. So I hope that the Minister will take a call. This is not an issue that I'm trying to be trite about. This is an issue I'm genuinely concerned about, having worked for ESR before, having known the kind of pressures that the Crown Research Institutes are under. And to be fair, Minister, they now have to provide a 9% dividend to the government. And that money is going to have to come from somewhere. And I just really want to know that these extra powers that we're giving are going to be properly funded so that we avoid any kind of suggestion that there may be a miscarriage of justice. And I note that we put up SOPs in Part 1 where we wanted people to be able to question the process as well as the actual charge, because that is important when you're doing this. I note that when you look at comments from the professors out of the forensics college in the United Kingdom, they've said that there is a real risk when you move down this path of opening up, having so many more samples in your DNA data bank. You do increase the risk of having miscarriages of justice, especially if they're not funded properly, and if the protections aren't put in place for someone to actually challenge that process and challenge the way that these Crown entities are dealing with those samples, not just the charges that are against them. So I hope that the Minister will take a call on this. It is a very, very serious issue, and I hope also that he'll respond to this.
I call Chair